Hey guys, it's Boss4852 Gaming here, and welcome back to another video on the channel. And today, we are going to be ranking the 4 main story mode bosses based off difficulty in Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville. These 4 bosses are Old School, Major Problem, Blightcap, and Dreadwood. And please keep in mind, these rankings are just my opinion, so it's completely okay if you disagree with them. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let's get started. Coming in at number 4, we have Old School. This boss fight is by far, in my opinion, the easiest of the 4 main story mode boss fights, and that's for a number of reasons. First off, his attacks are incredibly easy to avoid, and they're also incredibly predictable. His attack that he uses the most often are these sort of missiles that will do low amounts of damage if they hit you. These missiles are incredibly easy to hit, but they also move extremely slow, and they pose pretty much no threat at all. An attack that he also uses quite often are these sort of discs that he throws, which will roll across the floor. These, like the missiles, are incredibly easy to avoid if you put any sort of effort into avoiding them. At several points during the boss fight, Old School will roll up into his disco ball and bounce around on the floor. When he bounces, he emits a sort of shockwave which goes in a circular direction, but this shockwave, like every other one of his attacks, are incredibly easy to avoid and move incredibly slowly. And his final attack is incredibly easy and incredibly predictable if you get the hang of it. He sort of extends these sort of disco windows that move in a circle and damage you if you hit them. A character that's really easy to counter this move with is Snapdragon. You can use his flame to quickly obliterate all of the panels that you can destroy, and you can use his right ability to constantly damage the boss while avoiding the panels. Overall, this boss fight is pretty darn easy, which is why it takes the number 4 spot. Coming in at number 3, we have Dreadwood. This is the boss fight that you get after completing all of the other side missions in Weirding Woods. The primary way you do damage to this boss is by shooting it in the eyeball. This boss's primary attack are he shoots these sort of round balls at you, which do moderate amount of damage, but they are easily avoided by hiding behind these walls that pop up all over the battlefield. He does have several ways of shooting these though. Sometimes he shoots them in a straight direction, while other times he sprays them all over the battlefield. At several points during this boss fight, Dreadwood will get dizzy and fall asleep. During this time, a bunch of weeds will appear, and the only way of waking Dreadwood back up is by shooting several different objects on his body. By far, Dreadwood's most powerful attack is this sort of beam that he will charge up. This beam takes several seconds to charge, but it does a ton of damage if it hits you. Really, the only way to dodge this attack is by hiding behind one of the walls. Be careful though, the wall will break after he shoots it. At several points during the boss fight, Dreadwood will extend these sort of arms and begin to spin in a circle. These arms don't do a lot of damage, but are very dangerous because they will knock you off the platform you're standing on and send you below, or you will have to deal with a lot of enemies. These enemies are incredibly powerful, so be sure to avoid Dreadwood's spinning attack. Overall, this boss fight is moderately difficult, which is why it takes the number 3 spot. Coming in at number 2, we have the fact that you are not subscribed to the channel. No, seriously, a large percentage of our viewers are not subscribed, so make sure to do the right thing and subscribe to the channel. It's free and you can always undo it later. Now, let's get back to the video. Coming in at number 2, for real this time, is Major Problem. This boss fight takes place inside of a volcano filled with cheese, and you have a lot to deal with. Major Problem's primary attack is he shoots quick, small missiles at you. Unlike Old School's missiles, you cannot destroy these, so you have to do your best to avoid them. Major Problem's secondary attack is a real threat. It is a flamethrower, and this flamethrower has a lot of range and does high damage. Something that Major Problem does quite frequently during this boss fight is he sticks his arms into the cheese and heats it. This causes the cheese to rise, and that means you have to go up in altitude as well. Several platforms will appear, which you must parkour up in order to survive. Overall, this boss fight is pretty difficult, so it gets the number 2 spot. And coming in at number 1, the hardest main boss fight in the game is Blightcap. For me, this boss fight was a no-brainer to take the number 1 spot. Blightcap has a wide variety of attacks, all which are very hard to avoid and all do a high amount of damage. Her primary attack is she shoots out mushrooms, which will spread out very quickly, and they also move very fast. You must jump over these attacks to not get hit by them. Another attack that she does quite often is these sort of explosions in the ground. It leaves a sort of trail of purple fire, which does extremely high damage and is incredibly hard to avoid. And if that wasn't enough, at later points in the boss fight, she calls in these sort of doom shrooms, purple ones I guess, that will explode when you get near them, which will do very high amounts of damage. And finally, to top it all off, Blightcap sneezes on you at several points during the boss fight, which will make herself immune to damage, and you have to do several tasks at the same time. This is the part of the boss fight where the difficulty reaches its peak. When doing your tasks so you can damage Blightcap again, you will have tons of enemies attacking you, along with Blightcap herself. This boss fight is extremely hard, which is why it takes the number 1 spot. And there we have it, guys. That is my rankings based off difficulty of the 4 main bosses of Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!